Watch this.
It's not exactly what supporters asked for, but this late in the session, some lawmakers are still pushing to pass a new version of all-day kindergarten. Not everyone is on board. A lack of affordable housing is making retaining teachers in some parts of Idaho a bit difficult, so one South Central Idaho school district is getting creative. What is this? Or better question, where is this? Even better, where you at? We're going to tell you in our latest 208 segment.
If they get out of here Friday, it won't be the first time, but it'll be one of very few times when, at the very beginning of the session, when they said what their adjournment date is, they get to that adjournment date.
Getting to that adjournment date does seem like a whole lot better than just blowing right past it, right? Well, they did say at the beginning of the session, lawmakers wanted to end at the end of March. That was their end date. So we'll see. But before Friday, Idaho lawmakers have a lot of big ticket items to figure out. One of those, funding the option for full-day kindergarten, which has been discussed for years and almost made it through last session. Could this year be the year? Literacy legislation could help pay for full-day kindergarten programs, and it's now just a full Senate vote away from getting sent to the governor for his signature. And while Governor Little will likely sign something that powers literacy, this isn't exactly the bill supporters pushed for earlier this year. Here's Joe Paris.
For years, Idaho education advocates have pushed for funding to help pay for optional full-day kindergarten.
Anytime that you can invest in early childhood education and literacy is a good thing.
Beth Oppenheimer is executive director for the Idaho Association for the Education of Young Children. Like others, she's tracking House Bill 790. In short, House Bill 790 adjusts the literacy funding formula so schools receive dollars based on attendance and how students improve their literacy in the classroom. With the literacy funds, schools and districts have the option to institute programs that they feel will best benefit the students in their area, like full-day optional kindergarten.
This just gives them the ability to use this funding for full-day kindergarten so that they can use the other literacy dollars or other funding that they've been using in different ways.
The bill sponsor elaborates for us.
School districts have the flexibility to do extended day during the year. They can do summer school, they can do kindergarten, they can do smaller class sizes, they can hire more aides, they could buy curriculum, they could bring the low kids in on Fridays if they're a 4-day week. They have the flexibility to do what they want.
In House debate, some lawmakers raised financial and practical concerns, while others pushed back on those notions.
This way apparently isn't working, adding more and more money. $72 million in a literacy program for what I think is already in the job description of K through 3 education. That reading is one of those fundamentals of K through 3 education, is it not? Why do we have to adopt another program and add more money for what is already supposed to be happening in schools?
It allows more flexibility in the schools. It allows those teachers to do the things that they think are right in order to help all kids get where they want to be, and that is all of them reading by the end of 3rd grade. We want results. We've changed how we're asking them to show those results. I think it's well worth the money to do that.
We have not talked about the research honestly. We don't have the research that honestly shows whether it's good or bad. We have not considered the hundreds of families in this state who do not want their 5-year-old in a full-day kindergarten.
The schools are going to be incentivized to get their students to move from below basic to basic, basic to proficient, and maintain their proficiency, and I think that's important to know.
After debate, the legislation passed the Idaho House, 40-29, and then it passed the Senate committee a short time ago, paving the way for one final vote in the full Senate. Should it pass there, it would then head to Governor Little's desk. Advocates for full-day kindergarten acknowledge that this isn't the exact bill that they had hoped to present and pass. They say they had hoped for specific legislation to fund optional all-day kindergarten. But still, education advocates say this is a good step in the right direction.
Let's not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. Here we are, we're in a position where we can make some incremental improvements in the state's ability to fund early childhood education, specifically literacy. And at the end of the day, we want more children being able to read and have those foundational skills to be successful so that they're successful the rest of their academic career.
Yeah, kind of like throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Just because it's not perfect doesn't mean it's not good. This leads back to this whole optional thing. Kindergarten right now is optional. You don't have to start school till 7.
Right.
And full-day kindergarten, I assume, would also be optional, which I believe is what the plan is. Would it make much of a difference, though, if it goes to the governor's desk and he signs it?
Yeah, if the governor were to sign this, it would take some existing literacy budget dollars and it would allow local option. It would allow a local school district to say, if we had full-day kindergarten in our community, we feel like that we would be having our students achieve at a higher level. We feel like they would be able to, by 3rd grade, be where they need to be. So we want to do full-day kindergarten. Now, in some communities, that may not be the best option. There are communities, for example, that go 4 days a week. So they would say, okay, on the 5th day, we'd bring, the kindergartners in for some one-on-one time. So there's a lot of different options, but what this legislation do is it makes it crystal clear. If there's a local school district and school that says we want to fund all-day optional kindergarten, we can use this literacy money to do it because it's the best way for our community to make sure that our 3rd graders are at the appropriate level. Now, there's been a lot of confusion and a lot of concern about what COVID did to learning, especially early childhood education. Sure. This is one tool to help address that.
All right, so let's see if it kind of jumped through the State House so far. We'll see what the Senate does with it in the near future.
Yeah, as soon as maybe tomorrow or the next day.
All right, thanks, Joe.
I don't have one bill in my inbox right now. There's some rotating around in the office, but I don't have one bill in my inbox right now. Some of them were, I've asked for more information on that we're working on.
Where's Senate Bill 1309? You said that's not in your inbox at that point.
It's somewhere going around here, and matter of fact, I did ask for some more information on it, so.
Except your website does show Senate Bill 1309 is in your inbox, on your desk, rotating around your office, however you want to put it. So he does have it, he's seen it, but apparently has some questions about it. Well, it's been in that place since last week in that 2nd floor office. It's the Texas-style abortion bill, 1309, that Will is waiting for his signature. Well, he has until tomorrow at 1:46 to either sign it or he could veto it, or Governor Little could not sign it at all and just let it go into effect on its own. But as he has told us, or he did tell us today, that likely won't happen.
I have yet to let a bill become law without my signature, and I don't anticipate that happening.
Okay, so that leaves 2 options then. He can either sign it or veto it. And if he's had nearly 5 days to consider it, what is the holdup?
It was actually on a couple things. It was some of the testimony that you heard on the bill. So.
Testimony. There was a lot of testimony on the bill, so we kind of, left hanging to know what testimony specifically he's referring to. But we reached out to his office to get more clarification on that comment. We have yet to hear back. He has until tomorrow, again, about 1:46, just before 2 p.m. to sign it, veto it, or do nothing with it. And then it becomes law without his signature if he doesn't sign it. Anything other than a veto, that law will become enforceable 30 days after that point. At that same meeting, Governor Little was joined by Brandon Wolf, Idaho State Controller, to introduce a pretty new tool called Townhall.idaho.gov. It's a one-stop shop, if you will, of all state executive branch meetings. Governor Little says he hopes this will help increase Idahoans' confidence and involvement in government.
One of the key things, Bill, as well, follow-up would be, it's just being able to coordinate the hybrid, people that want to be in person and those that can do it virtually.
So starting April 15th, all state executive branch agencies will have to post their meetings, their notices, their agendas, and minutes to this one website. They're not going to do any online streamings as of yet. Wolf says they're still working on that. Governor Little actually proposed $2 million to allow those agencies to stream their public meetings on that website. The money was actually just approved by the Joint Finance Appropriations Committee. Governor Little says the goal is to eventually include local governments in this approach as well. Housing shortages and housing costs seemingly impacting everyone here in Idaho. If not personally, then likely you know someone who is. And it's not just a big city problem. What about places like Blaine County? Home to desirable places like Sun Valley and Haley and Ketchum. For locals there, it's not just an affordable housing shortage, but an all-out housing shortage. Last summer, there was even this wild idea to allow people working in Ketchum to sleep in tents in the city park, thinking it would help with the housing crisis. Ketchum City Council nixed that idea. But seasonal service workers are one thing. In the Blaine County School District, it's getting to the point where teachers are turning down jobs or being forced out of their homes because of the housing issue. And it's leaving the district with a staffing shortage. So they are deciding to take matters into their own hands by moving forward with a plan that would create affordable housing, but not just for their employees, or I should say just for their employees. That's the clarification. Here's Katya Stepovic.
It's a story far too common among teachers and staff working in the Blaine County School District.
Last year, as we went through the hiring process, a number of very high qualified candidates had to turn down contracts because they couldn't find a place to live in Blaine County.
The district went out and surveyed the staff and found that 83% of staff thought housing costs affected their long-term ability to staff within the district. 97% said that the high housing costs were a barrier in hiring staff.
And one of the big topics was housing insecurity for our staff. Stories of teachers' colleagues losing their homes, their rents being raised.
As a response, the district started offering subsidies to staff who were paying more than 30% of their adjusted gross income for rent. Since then, 25 people have been receiving that help, but that still is not enough. Even with
offering a rent subsidy, the real problem was the lack of supply. And there hasn't been a lot of building in the valley since the 90s. It does get built as either very high end or pretty much out of reach. Anything that comes on the market is bid up by a lot of out of town money, so it leaves the workforce in a pretty precarious place.
So last week, the Blaine County School Board voted to start the planning process to build affordable housing on district land. The idea right now is to build on 3 residential lots in Haley with up to 9 homes in the first phase.
What we'd like to see is the ability for the district to control the rent price and keep it at that 30% of adjusted gross family income. So in that case, you could have different tenants paying different rents according to where they are on our salary schedule.
But before they can do that, they need to find a willing developer. And if they do, they plan to take it one step further and create more affordable housing projects on other district land.
It's the inability to fill positions, and that it has a direct impact on student achievement and everything else. We're a school district is a people business, and we need to keep people here.
This sounds kind of like it's a good idea. Rent control is not a thing in Idaho, but if you own the property, you can charge whatever you want. The question is, we're getting to the end of this school year, but things are already starting to line up for next year, right?
Absolutely. The district is hoping to get a proposal from a development company in April, but they're hoping that happens soon because that is a hot market there, not many developers. And then they will decide whether or not it's a good decision and go forward with in a board meeting come May. Like you said, Brian, it's hiring season right now for them, so they really want to move quickly on this and hopefully expand in the future.
And maybe lay the framework for other school districts in some popular places, Coeur d'Alene, where some of these resort communities are, McCall, Valley County, that kind of stuff.
It's not a bad idea.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Katya. A popular spring and summer staple in Boise is getting ready to reopen, but in this almost post-pandemic new normal, it will be in a new normal spot. How about this spot? Know where it is? Got any guesses? How about wrong answers only? Text them to us, or like always, you can send us your questions, comments, and clever complaints. 208-321-5614 is the number. Don't forget to include your name and the hashtag #the208. We're going to share a few of them, and maybe yours at the end of the show.
again this Sunday, and you remember that very gusty, blustery wind on Sunday. It didn't really feel like the beginning of spring, but today, much more like it. Still underneath a dry northerly flow, which is keeping temperatures cool. That's relatively speaking, relative to the temperatures that we're expecting as we cruise through the rest of the week. This is our high pressure ridge that will shift to the east, slide over our region, and keep us high and dry through the rest of the week, and it will bump our temperatures up into record territory. I don't know if there will be new records, not so sure about that, but it will be close to some record highs for the days Friday, Saturday, and into Sunday. Highs tomorrow, close to 70 degrees throughout the Treasure Valley, even some low 70s on the board. We have 50s in our Mountain Valley locations and low to mid 60s down through the Magic Valley. Winds will stay rather light tomorrow out of the southeast, which is a warming wind direction for us. Plus, we have that increasingly powerful March sun angle, which is also increasing its burning power, but also its warming power. And that's what takes those temperatures very quickly up into the 50s by lunchtime and then into the upper 60s by the time we head into the afternoon and evening. Records possible Friday, Saturday, maybe not new records, but getting close to it. Here's a look at that 7-day forecast, which of course you can always find at ktvb.com.
Yeah, that forecast officially feels like, well, at least mid-spring, and we're only in the first week. Just in time for Tree Fort, though, which starts tomorrow. And this warm weather also has a lot of people getting excited for the return of farmers markets. Most of them are going to be opening back up for the season in the next couple of weeks, including the Capital City Public Market, downtown Boise. That is heading into its 28th year. But because of construction happening around their normal location on 8th and Idaho Streets, the market won't be at their normal location. Starting April 16th, Capital City Public Market's going to move to the Grove Plaza for the entire year, so just a few short blocks to the south. You'll still be able to shop from more than 100 vendors. They're all going to be packed in that place, and they're going to be open from 9:30 in the morning to 1:30 every Saturday afternoon. And if you're not in Boise, just check out your local Chamber of Commerce website. Most Idaho cities and towns have their own farmers markets that you can check out. One last time. What is this? Where is this? Last call for where you at guesses, because we're going to tell you where it's at after the break. 208-321-5614. Make sure to include your name and the hashtag the 208. All right, we've shown you a few very close-up views of a well-known location in the Treasure Valley. It's part of a new segment we're debuting here on the 208 called Where You At? Yeah, I know, it's not the best grammar, but we're going with it. Also, where we've fallen short when it comes to grammar, we hope we make up the ground when it comes to teaching you about the 208. So have you figured out where it's at? I've had people say it's Initial Point out in Cuna, the C.W. Moore Park in downtown Boise, even your mom's house. That was a good one, clever. Did you notice the 1857 date, the cast iron cylinder? It's the cannon on Idaho's Capitol grounds. Cast more than a century and a half ago, it's been standing sentinel outside the State House for more than a century. Like ringing the bell at the bottom of the Capitol steps. If you or your kids haven't climbed on top of that cannon for an epic picture, have you ever really been to the State House? Probably not. Well, you probably heard the stories about it, like why it's filled with cement. There's a plaque posted on the side of the cannon that's briefly describing what it is and how it got there. 42-pound Seacoast gun donated in 1910 after being used in the Civil War. But was it? After speaking with Kim Rao with the Department of Administration, we learned the canon of the cannon isn't perfectly clear. Here's what's true. It's a 42-pound Seacoast gun. The 42 pounds referring to the size of the ball, not the cannon. It was put in place on the Capitol's southwest lawn in 1910. There also used to be a pyramid of cannonballs stacked alongside, until they kept getting stolen. History tells us it was purchased by Senator William Borah and State Treasurer C.A. Hastings. However, Hastings' involvement with procuring the cannon hasn't been fully confirmed, according to Idaho's Capitol curator. True, the cannon was forged in 1857, but not true. It's not really a model 1840. It's actually a model 1845. The U.S. Army had moved on to Model 45s after 1855. Verified, it's a relic of the Civil War era. Unverified, it actually saw combat in the Civil War. It was supposedly used in the siege of Vicksburg, Mississippi in 1863, but the cannon's service record is unclear, we're told. And while it may have a link to Vicksburg, like a lot of things, the cannon came to Idaho by way of California. Confirmed, the grounds crew plugged the cannon with cement in the 1950s. Not confirmed why it was plugged. Rumor has it they filled it because it was unofficially fired off at least 3 times. The first time was during Prohibition, because the barrel was apparently a perfect spot to hide a bottle of hooch. Well, someone did one day, a very hot day, and as the iron heated up, so did the bottle, and it exploded. Another local legend has it, on 2 occasions, in the 30s and again in the 40s, rapscallions packed it with gunpowder and debris. The blasts supposedly peppered parked cars and blew out the windows, ironically, of the Borah building across the street. But according to the Department of Administration, those stories are just that, unsubstantiated stories. So, the cannon of the cannon, or what we thought it was, isn't as solid as the cement it's packed with. Even I've heard and repeated those same stories since I've been in Boise, that yeah, somebody tried to blow it and shoot it, but I guess it never happened, or at least we can't verify that it actually did happen, but now we know better. At one point, there were 28 of these 8,500-pound cannons that survived the Civil War and were cataloged, and we've got one of them, which is cool. All right, final minute of the show here, and you've sent in your text, or you texted in your comments, even your questions. Let's get to those right now to wrap up the show. Why should the feelings of the minority of parents who oppose full-day kindergarten have more weight than the majority of parents who do, asks Lori Hazen from Twin Falls. And it's a good question. One of the points brought up during debate there in the House today was whether or not the minority should overrule the majority when it comes to, if you don't want it, why should we pass this rule, spend this money? But I guess that's the question. A lot of people in Idaho would like to see the option, at least, for full-day kindergarten. Nothing new under the sun. In the 30s and 40s, my mother taught in one-room schools in Long Valley, High Valley, Yellow Pine. Lodging, a teacherage, was part of her salary, says David. That's part of history. And that is, I mean, if we learned anything from Little House on the Prairie, the school teacher lived at the schoolhouse, right? That's kind of how it works. And so now it looks like they're kind of bringing back a modern version of that, or at least trying to, in Sun Valley. Come on, Brian, where you at? It's where are you? Not where you're at. Please be an example for our English language. Thank you, says Jack. I know, but see, the thing with the 208 is rules are meant to be broken. We like to do things differently. Play with the language a little bit. We know what proper grammar is, but we just decided to play with it a little bit. Here's a good guess. The State House canon used to signal the end of an on-time legislative session. They filled it with cement because, well, it was never used. It's a good point.